Hey, my name is Lauren Fiesel, and I may be painting while I'm in this video. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to get a chance to do that, but multitasking is my friend. So I wanted to talk to you about dysphagia and about my husband and his stroke and how loved ones, family, and friends can help even as time passes, and it's been a long time. So in 2018, TJ had a stroke, and it was a brainstem cerebellar stroke, which is going to be basically down here in the base of your head. In TJ's case, it was less severe at first and then more severe later. So dysphagia, for those that don't know, is the inability to swallow or difficulty swallowing. For some people, it is as simple as chewing food and it being very difficult to swallow, or it is having issues once in a while but not all the time, or with specific consistencies of food, so like solids versus liquids. And then for other people, it is an issue of it not going where it needs to go. Sometimes it's a muscle thing, sometimes it's a lack of protection to the lung thing. In TJ's case, it's been all of them at one point or another. So originally in the hospital, he was not diagnosed with dysphagia. He had been evaluated by a speech therapist and had passed. After that, the next morning actually, I was watching him eat his breakfast, and I think he was eating a waffle, and he was chewing and chewing and chewing and chewing and trying to swallow, and then eventually spitting it out into his napkin. So I asked him if he was having trouble swallowing, and he told me his throat hurt. So I went to the dietitian first and told her he was having difficulty swallowing, and we picked out some foods that were soft foods, basically pureed type foods that he might have an easier time with. And then I spoke to the doctor, who called the speech therapist, to get a new evaluation scheduled for later that afternoon. Unfortunately, he didn't make it to later that afternoon. His pressure in his brain increased to a dangerous level. To a fatal level. Had it been left, he would have died. So he had to have emergency brain surgery, and what had happened was that the seal between his spinal cord and his brain, as I understand it, was kind of broken, and all this cerebral spinal fluid had leaked into his brain and was increasing the pressure. And so he had what they call hydrocephalus. And so the pressure had increased and was very, very bad. They went in and did surgery, removed part of his cerebellum, got the spinal fluid out, tried to redo the seal between, I guess, the spinal cord and the brain, closed everything back up. And when they were in there, his oxygen kept dropping. They sent him for an x-ray right after and found out that he had food in both of his lungs. And he had aspiration pneumonia. Aspiration pneumonia, double lung aspiration pneumonia, is absolutely awful after a stroke. First off, he didn't have the ability to cough. He didn't have the ability to swallow well. He was laying in a bed with having just had brain surgery with a suction tube that they call a yinker in his mouth, and he would go and cough up what he could, and I would help him with the suction, and we would get whatever we could sucked out of his mouth and watch the machine that was giving us his oxygen readings and hope that his oxygen was going up. To a certain extent it worked, but then as he got tired, it just didn't. So he had double problems. It wasn't just the function of his lungs that was causing his oxygen to drop, but the function of his brainstem. So when he would get tired, his brainstem would stop working as well, his oxygen would drop to a dangerous level, he would have to be intubated. As soon as he was not so tired, his breathing and everything would get better, his oxygen would get better, his whole body would get better, they would extubate him, he would do great, the pneumonia would get a little bit better, but he was also having trouble breathing, he would get tired again, his oxygen would drop, and we would repeat this process every 2 days for the next 3 weeks. By the end of the 3 weeks, he had had enough. he had what they call exhaustion psychosis. So basically, he was so tired that he began fighting everyone and everything around him because he couldn't do it anymore. At that point, I told them to put in a trach. I hadn't been asked about a trach yet, but I wasn't gonna wait for them to ask me. It was pretty severe, and I knew something else needed to be done. Once they put in the trach, that stopped. The exhaustion psychosis stopped. Some of his breathing issues got better, but at this point, the next problem we had was that they had just put in a stomach tube to feed him because he couldn't swallow, and he was rejecting all of the tube feed and throwing it up. So the problem with dysphagia after 3 years is that the first year, he had so many other issues that we could not treat the dysphagia very well. First issue, his blood pressure. Second issue, his breathing. Third issue, he had diabetes for a short period of time. Fourth issue, he could not walk. Fifth issue, he was throwing up tube feed even when he came home for about 6 to 8 months. And it was just one thing after another. As his wife, I was trying to manage 5 different systems of his body, watch everything, read everything, and always know when to get help because I was on my own. On top of that, the insurance company did not cover tube feed and still does not. And speech therapy was only covered for 30 days outpatient. He needed like 500 days of speech therapy and they wanted to cover 30. Now, for those who ever go through this, you can fight for more, and that's what you have to do. Don't get too exhausted. Fighting is part of the journey. You have to do it. If you do not, your spouse, your loved one will not get better. It's the trade-off. They live, you fight. You fight, they live. You must do it. It's hard, but you can. So we did it as a team. He put in 100% effort in his rehab, and I put 100% of my effort into figuring out how to pay for it. Life was not easy. It's still not easy. So even to this day, those challenges are still there. The biggest challenge with him swallowing is that he chokes. So when he goes to rehab, we do a couple exercises. One is Masako, which is you hold your tongue with your teeth, like this, and you swallow at the same time. And you do that to strengthen the swallow. Another one of them is when you go to swallow, you'll feel this if you're a man, your Adam's apple go up and down. If you're a woman, you'll just feel that little notch. But either way, you go to swallow, and when it gets to the top and you feel that where you're as high as you can, you hold it. I didn't do it very well, but you hold it. And you actually end up holding your breath, and your back of your throat kind of comes up and just kind of stays up there. So you do that. And the third thing is that you can lower your chin to your chest and swallow with everything tucked down. Now, one of the processes for him in his rehab is to continually be given ice or like a thickened liquid every once in a while, but mostly it's just his saliva, which he can't swallow at this time. But you put your chin to your chest and you try to swallow it. In those cases, every single time for 3 years, it goes into his lung. He immediately starts coughing. If you know your body at all, you know that your body naturally does not want you to choke. Okay, we are instinctually against it. Our lungs expel the liquid, our eyes water, sometimes we throw up, our faces get red, we hack and hack and hack, we start breathing really hard, it kind of causes a panic in us. Imagine doing that 20 to 30 times during your therapy and then coming home and being told to do it as much as you can because that's gonna keep working those muscles. Okay, for 3 years. On top of that, we have to do it at home because only 30 days of rehab are covered, and it takes me another 2 months to get it approved for even another 30 days. So that's a process. He's been doing it for a long time, but now it's even more because that's what's left. They told us that's what we need to do. And recently I heard the concept that because he's always spitting his spit out, maybe he just can't swallow because he's always been sending things up and nothing's been going down. He's never been trying to send anything down, which was a misnomer based on not knowing that he does it every day. And he chokes, and it's hard, and it's terrible, and it's uncomfortable. And watching his face turn red and his eyes get bulgy, and it's terrible for both of us. It's absolutely awful. For me, there's a slight feeling of failure because it's been 3 years for everyone else, but things are very different for us. He still has to fight to stay healthy, to keep him from having aspiration pneumonia. We can't let anything into that lung, and now we're risking that aspiration pneumonia so that he can swallow. He gets so frustrated because he wants to share how much he's gone through and how well he's doing, but as soon as he gets the words out, someone asks him, well, are you going to be able to eat again? How's that going? And that is completely done with a well-meaning and loving nature. No one does it in a mean way, and no one ever should be afraid to ask that. But it sends him back to, don't ask it in such a simple way. It's not simple. Then it also puts in his mind this, will anybody ever be happy with me? Will I ever be back to who I was, who they all want me to be so badly? Is it okay if I'm not? The fact is he won't be. He's a different person, and he's flat out told me he doesn't want to be who he was before. I can't be who I was before. It's changed our lives in some amazing ways and in some rough ways. For me, I have the same problem. I am so afraid of letting him down or letting others down that any type of criticism, any type of comment or concept comes across so poorly in my brain. I have to watch 5 different bodies parts and make sure that he's okay. While he's trying to do rehab, I'm watching his oxygen. I am bringing him home. I'm treating the fact that he gets little minor fevers. I'm trying to make sure he doesn't get aspiration pneumonia. He gets tired. I can't take him on a car ride because his oxygen will drop if he's too tired. I gotta stand him up. If he gets sinus drainage that blocks his throat, he's gotta go outside the car. I've gotta beat on his back until we can break it up and he can breathe again. I have to worry about the fact that we come home and he has a fever and he has breathing issues, and I try to put him on his oxygen machine and the compressor goes out and I can't afford another one. I have to work through all of those things. Tube feed every month. Every time rehab gets done and they send me another denial letter to pay for 30 more days that I have to keep fighting. And then people ask me, why haven't you fought for him to get this? Why haven't you fought for him to get that? Because I'm so tired of fighting. It's exhausting. So I pick the things that he has to have. And I fight for them. And sometimes I win and sometimes I lose, but I fight. We are grateful for where we are today, for who we are. The Lord has been so good to us. There's this thing that I read in the Bible recently where a man asked the Lord, please let me not be poor and let me not be rich. Because if I'm rich, I will be prideful and I not thank you for what I get. And if I'm poor, I will go out and steal to get the food that I need and not rely on you. We have exactly what we need. Sometimes in the most unorthodox ways, sometimes because people are helping us, sometimes because we have to beg for it, and sometimes because we have to fight for it. But we have it. We are not poor. and we are not rich. We have exactly what we need. And we fight. The process is a long one. I'm not giving up, and neither is he. My recommendations to family and friends who have people struggling with this, especially if it's been a long time, just keep supporting them and loving them. Don't always ask them about the thing that they're struggling on, the last thing that needs to be done, or the thing that everyone notices. But instead, keep the conversation focused on what they have succeeded in, or simply what you've noticed is the same. TJ loves it when people comment on his pictures. He loves it when people comment on his energy, his positivity, his kindness, his creativity. He doesn't want to always be known as the guy you can't swallow. So don't know him as that. Get to know who he is now. He's not exactly the same. He's still TJ, but he's different. He's got different focuses. He avoids big groups of people. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I will always back that up. He has a 75% higher risk of aspiration pneumonia, or pneumonia in general, than anyone else I know. There are so many things, and if he ever wants to swallow again, he cannot end up in the ICU. He cannot get sick and let his body sit there for weeks, unable to do the things he needs to do for rehab because he's so sick. And all of the muscles get weak again, and he has to start back over from the ground floor. It's not worth the risk. He doesn't deal with drama or anger or frustration or loud voices, because every time he gets anxious or tired or frustrated, his blood pressure goes up. And fighting to get his blood pressure down causes so many problems. When he gets too tired and too frustrated, his oxygen drops too, and he spends the night with an oxygen machine, which we don't have right now, so that's definitely out. If he says no to something, it isn't because he has completely changed, or that he's being a recluse, or he's not being who he was before, or being true to himself. It is because the things that are important to him are very different than the things that may be important to you. He still values his family and his friends and his loved ones, but maybe 2 or 3 at a time. He still values experiences and vacations and enjoying things, but maybe not around a whole bunch of people. He still likes to challenge himself. So find out what his interests are. Find out what he does. And maybe come see him, or video chat with him, or just laugh. He's very calm because he spends his energy on things that are 100% more important to him than other things. If it's not going to help his rehab, and it's not going to put him in a healthier place, in a safer place, chances are he's going to say no to it. And that's just the way it is. I'm not going to argue with him, but I will also break the misnomer. I don't make his decisions for him. I have very little say in the yeses and the nos. I do get blamed for them sometimes because he's still nervous about what people think, as am I. But he's pretty amazing. And if you take the time and you learn who the new man is, you realize that the Lord has made him into a pretty amazing man. And he was already pretty amazing before. Don't give up. Hold on to that hope. Keep praying. Keep loving him. Pray for me too. And God, keep loving me. If my advice for anyone who knows a caregiver of someone, tell them they're doing a good job. every chance you can. Not that they're amazing and they're, you know, a heavenly angel, but simply you're doing a good job. I know you're still dealing with this and it's still hard and it's going to keep being hard for a long time, but I haven't forgotten you. I know you're still doing this and you're succeeding, and I'm so proud of you. Don't get frustrated with them. Please don't. Because the challenges are so unending and so exhausting that even the slightest comment that makes them feel like a failure can put them into depression for months. If you want to be their support system, be their support system. If not, avoid talking to them, I guess. I don't know. Because it's hard. We all have our challenges, and I wish I was there for others more than I am. I wish I could be there and I could love on people when they're going through theirs. All I can do is be open with the situation that we're in, and for those others who don't have the ability to speak out or are too scared to. I thank you all. Thank you for praying. Thank you for loving on us. Thank you for not giving up on us. And thank you for watching this video. I hope that it explains where we're at 3 years later. I hope that it is not degrading or angry or mean or cruel, because that's not my intention in any way. My intention is completely and 100% to explain the unexplainable. What it's like in this world, in this spot. And I do have some people, one last thing, I promise, I know this video is getting really long. I do have some people who ask why we focus on the stroke so much. Or, you know, life has to go on. I've heard that so many times, dear goodness. Love people, but how do I say this kindly? Don't say that. To use a word I tell the kids not to use, shut up. Don't say that. Because life is going on. This is the life. And the moment you start getting mad about that, you stop being joyful. And the moment you stop focusing on what happened and why you are where you're at, and realizing where you came from. So we could be angry realizing that we were a pretty happily married, easygoing couple 3 years ago, living a normal life, TJ working full-time, me working part-time, going to school, to who we are now. If we miss the stroke, we miss the reason. We miss the struggle, and we miss the journey, and we miss the success. We focus on the stroke because it's the positive, where we came from to where we are. Life has to go on. It is going on, honey. This is it. It is not all sunshine and rainbows, but it's not dark either. It's a happy life with different types of choices made for different reasons. And it will be successful in the long term because we don't give up. And we aren't swayed from watching for the things that are important to us. Stay healthy, stay safe, keep fighting. Praise the Lord for every single step. All right, that is it. Thank you for watching. God bless you. Hopefully I don't lose support, love, and followers here, but I'm hoping it will help people understand as well. Thank you.